meeting to order for the regular board meeting for the month of November. November 15th, 2023. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ferrari?
Here.
Mrs. Taliani?
Here.
Mr. Merba?
Here.
Dr. Lynch?
Here.
Mrs. Alcorn?
Here.
Mr. Pacetto?
Here.
Mr. Sarver?
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everyone tonight. We have a full agenda, a lot of good things going on. But first of all, before we start, I would like to say a special thank you to my fellow board members on National Board Members Day. It is my privilege to serve with you. The number of hours, your dedication to help LP High School be a great place to teach, learn, and work. Thank you very much. Okay, if you look over the minutes from the regular board meeting on October 18th, 2023, and a special meeting October 28th, 2023, need a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Ferrari?
Yes.
Mrs. Taliani?
Yes.
Mr. Merba?
Yes.
Dr. Lynch?
Yes.
Mrs. Alcorn?
Yes.
Mr. Pacetto?
Yes.
Mr. Sarver?
Here. Tonight for recognitions, we have two people. First of all, we have Mrs. Tina Pienta. She's one of our administrative assistants in the school safety office. Her primary job responsibility is focused on managing the flurry of discipline referrals each day. This includes filing, writing letters to families, and assisting in preparing suspensions and transfer packets. Mrs. Pienta also serves as a substitute scheduler, backing up Mrs. Franklin. Mrs. Lance shared that Tina is always positive and jumps in whenever anyone needs assistance. She connects well with many students coming in and out of her office. Tina's been a great addition to the school safety office. Tina, would you come up and meet the board, please?
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. Congratulations. And our second recognition tonight is Mrs. Jackie Karen, who serves as the manager of Casey's General Store in LaSalle. Both Mr. Minkin and Ms. Lance recommended Jackie. Both said that Jack is a huge supporter of LP, regularly giving discounts for food orders for various events and programs. Jackie speaks positively about LP as a wonderful advocate and a community ambassador. Jackie, please come up.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all your help.
Oh, great school. Thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you very much for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much.
Thanks for everything you do. Thank you. I love Casey's.
Thank you.
Yep, pictures. Yep.
We know exactly when I love it. Love it. You don't like it, you don't like it.
Their pizza's good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. They've got really good pizza.
Really good pizza. I had to say no tonight as I was putting gas in.
Oh my God, woke me up. Well, actually, I was kind of half awake, and windows were shaking. I mean, it sounded like an explosion. Actually, I went down into the basement. I thought, my God, did a switch blow up or something like that? It really did, yeah.
I thought something ran into the house.
Yeah, I remember that too. A tree falling down on the house. Yeah.
We live just down the hill.
Yeah, right.
Just down the hill. I slept through the whole thing. My husband said it was pretty bad. Earthquake.
The quake?
I heard it.
I did too. I felt it.
All right, tonight for our division spotlights, we not only have one, but we have two divisions. We have the CTE, Career Technical Education, which will be showing us their QuickBook accounting course. Then after we have Mrs. Lori Turzen with the ACC Culinary Arts Program, handing out brochures, talking about her program, and many delicious treats. Mr. Lauer.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you, board, for giving us this opportunity to spotlight our QuickBooks accounting course here at LP High School. I'd first like to give out a big thank you to Mr. Menken and Mrs. Bedanko-Hill. If it wasn't for all their support, all their work behind the scenes, this class would have never taken off 5 years ago. So I can't thank them enough for helping me get this started. When this course started, we were using QuickBooks Desktop, and we were made aware last year that they will no longer support the desktop version in the education environment, and so we had to switch to the online version, and it's been a fun journey as we're all learning together as we go through.
Could you, Matt? Yep.
There we
There we
go.
go.
Got it.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
It was
You guys
so
are
Hold on.
run.
Keep alive.
All right, we have 3 special students here. They all have a different story, and they're members of the QuickBooks class. First, we have Lexi Yepson, we have Maya Escatel, and we have Jasmine Arce. Now, Lexi actually took this course last year with the desktop version, and she was the only junior in the class. And when she found out that we were going to have to switch to the online version, she came and talked to me and asked if there would be any possibility that she could take the class again using the online version, so she would have the skills in both desktop and online. And so thanks to Mrs. Cushing, Mr. Gibson, and administration, we got that accomplished, and Lexi's actually taking this course and not receiving actual credit for that. She's just doing it for the skill, and she has been a godsend to me, helping me explain to the class differences, similarities between the two platforms. So, and then we have Maya. Maya takes her skills that she learns in the classroom, and she has a part-time job for her uncle's business where she inputs transactions and runs reports for his small business. So then she actually brings real-world application back to the classroom and helps the students. And finally, Jasmine. Jasmine is also in my Accounting 2 course this year, and the students just finished their fall accounting monopoly project or tournament, and Jasmine helped her classmates figure out how to create their company, run their transactions, and their reports for their accounting monopoly companies. So each of them are going to show a little bit of a demonstration after bit of their aspects. The QuickBooks course here, it is a weighted course. We have 2 prereqs for it. You can either take Accounting 1 or Honors Accounting 1. We do use a college textbook. As far as I know, I have not been able to contact anybody in the state of Illinois, any other teachers that are using this class at the high school level. So feel pretty honored that we're doing that here at LP. Maybe there is 1 or 2, but there's definitely, we're one of the leaders. This course comes with an online platform for their assessments called My Business Course. Each student gets a 1-year free subscription to QuickBooks Online through Intuit Education. As they go through this course, they do practice exercises, and they use a separate website that is a test drive website, and they can change all the any amounts they want to. They can add invoices, change vendor names, and once they log out, it goes back to its original state. So it's a great practice environment for them. Then they use their subscription to do their application problems. They actually do the book work for 2 different types of companies, and the one skill going through this the last 5 years in the desktop, but especially this year, I've noticed, and the students have talked about it, the one skill that they have taken the most from this is their problem solving. The textbook will give them, as they're going through the homework problem, it'll give them certain accounts to have a checkpoint for a balance. And if their company is not at that balance, they have to go back and dig through and figure out where are they off, how much are they off, what changes need to be made, and remedy that. Because if they're wrong in chapter 2, they're going to be wrong to start chapter 3. Whereas in the desktop, they gave me data files where we would start, so they would automatically start fresh. But with the online platform, they have to figure it out to move forward. So that has been a real big skill there. The G-Metrics is a practice platform that we use to prepare them for their certification, because they will culminate the class with the chance to be certified in QuickBooks Online. And Ms. Benenko-Hill is going to give you some brochures and talk to you a little bit more about that.
We went to Certiport certifications about 5 years ago. What Certiport does is it creates like a test for the students, and they take the test in the program. It's application based, and they get a score, and based on that score they can earn a badge. That means they're certified to do that in any business. And we offer, besides QuickBooks Online, all of Microsoft Office, Excel, Word, PowerPoint, Access, and Outlook. And then we also offer a badge for Dreamweaver and web design class. The cost is about $100 a student. The G-Metrics is a practice platform for the Certiport test. So what we've been doing is we practice the G-Metrics practice test. With the $100 fee, they get 2 chances to pass the Certiport test. And then we have been converting their score in the Certiport test to their final exam, and they can choose that as their final exam. So they don't have to repeat. But I have a little handout on Certiport certification, where it came from, which ones we offer. And Mr. Menken pays for some of those, and Mr. Gibson pays for some, and some comes out of our business budget. And I would say our pass rate is 85% overall on the, I think is a good number. There's 2.
Thank you, Ms. Benenko. As I was saying, the students work with 2 different companies. One's a service business, one's a merchandising business. They go through all the sales, the purchasing, and end of fiscal year or end of fiscal period activities in order to simulate as if they had their own business. There's also a special unit that is on project time billing in case any of them, maybe they want to run a landscaping business. They need to create estimates based on the amount of time it would take, and then that would lead into progress billing, which they take the estimate, and then based on the real numbers on how long the project took, they can transfer that into an invoice. And finally, the other unit that they supply is payroll, in case any of the students end up having their own business and they have people working for them. So what we want to do next is Maya here, she's going to show you the test drive, which we use for our practice activities. And anybody, if you guys want to try this sometime, if you just want to see what QuickBooks Online is about, this is available to you, this website. And you can go in there and, like I said, you can modify it, change it, and it'll just go right back to its original state. Need to try to get us there. I know I can get this way. Okay, that'd be great. Go through this way. Can't get there. Thank you, Mr. Baker. Oh, she can't run it from where she. Let's see.
Oh, I think you're looking at a copy.
I'm already breaking things.
They can be replaced, there's no problem.
Just look at the monitor, not the laptop.
Oh, okay.
Much better.
Alrighty. This might be a little bit of a struggle, so bear with me here. Alright, I'm gonna walk you through a couple little mock things. So first we're gonna do an invoice. So if you come down here.
And like I said, Maya does this at her uncle's business, so she's getting pretty efficient.
There it goes. Okay. Let's see. There it goes.
And the practice comes with preloaded vendors and customers as well as chart of accounts.
Oh, it's weird looking up there. Okay. Wow, I think I lost the mouse. Okay, there we go. Alright, just like that, simple enough, created an invoice there. There it goes. There we go. Alrighty, next we're gonna walk through, I believe it's receiving a payment transaction. So, here. Maybe.
You can't scroll down.
I'm already nervous as it is. Okay.
There's payment. You just little bit.
I'm still getting used to this. Okay. There we go. Alrighty.
And so with QuickBooks, it does all the journal entries and all the postings in the background as they create any of the forms.
Was your uncle using QuickBooks before you started working for him, or have you kind of become his go-to person?
He already was using it before I started working there, so I kind of learned over the summer how to use this. And then I signed up for the QuickBooks class.
Yep.
And so I was excited for it because I was like, great, I can help in class and I can help at work, you know, kill two birds with one stone. So it was a great learning experience. So now we are going to do a bank deposit. So for that, we're going to come over here to the navigation bar. Bank deposit.
So with QuickBooks, when they receive a payment, it goes into an account called undeposited funds, and so until they're actually going to go to the bank or until they're going to transfer that money wireless, then they can make this deposit.
Current date is correct. Deposit. This one and this one. Oh. There it goes.
Thank you, Maya.
You're very welcome. We'll hiccups with some
No, it's tough. Let's see. Lex, we're gonna have to log in. This one, correct? Lexi's gonna show you the G-Metrics, which is our practice environment in preparation of the certification test. Now the students receive two separate practice exams, but we as teachers, we can create our own. Like if we want to just do one for one single unit, we can go through a bank of questions and create it.
I don't know how to get back to. I don't know how to get back to how it shows all of them.
For your dashboard.
Go to the save test. Go to save test.
Okay. It was your completed test that you had for there. So you can show them the report.
I can show them
Okay.
testing and training.
New test.
Save test. Or no, that's right. Okay.
Yep. And if we can scroll. Apologize for the technical things.
Okay. For each test, there's a testing mode, which is a time test, and then a training mode, which is not timed. I already started a test, so I can go back to that one, or I can start it all over. When you answer a question in the practice test in the training mode, it will tell you, if you got it wrong, it will tell you the right answer. And then at the end, it shows like all your flagged test questions, and then it shows which ones you got wrong, and you can go back and review those. And you can use that to kind of make like a guide to like study for it. And when you're done with the test, you get one of these reports, and it tells you what your score was, and then at the bottom it shows you which ones you struggled on and what like areas you struggled with, and then you can focus on like just those areas. If you got like a 50% in a certain area and a 100 in another area, you can just focus on the one that you got a 50% in.
That is.
Thank you, Lex. And lastly is going to be Jasmine, and Jasmine is going to show you her accounting monopoly project. And I'm gonna go ahead and log in here, because what QuickBooks Online does in the education environment, it allows me to be the student's accountants. So if they get into a real jam, I can go ahead and I can get into their work and help them make modifications that they need to.
Okay, I'm Jasmine, and for my accounting monopoly project, we had to create company names. So mine were Arce's Amazing Apartments, and we had to make journal entries for each transaction that we made in the game. So when we, okay, there we go. Okay, so we had to make print out reports for each. So after we did our journal transactions, we had to print out reports for each quarter that we did. So I'm going to first show you a journal report that I made for my first quarter. So I can just.
So the students will play 4 days of Monopoly and record their transactions, and each day represents a quarter of the year, and then they make an entire annual report at the end.
With whom are you competing?
Who am I competing with? So we have 6 kids in my class, so we divided into two teams of 3. So I was with Adam Kaspersky and Brady Romanoli. So I'll go back, because for our first quarter we started it at January 2nd. So over here, it'll work. There you go. And then let me go right here, because if we do it to November, then it's going to show all of the journals from January all the way to November. But I only want to show my first quarter. So here is a couple of how the first quarter would look. So for example, let's say my 7th journal entry right here, it says Oriental Avenue cash rent revenue. So someone landed on my property that I bought. I bought Oriental Avenue. So they had to pay me rent of $6, and then I would record that transaction in QuickBooks. So I would show right here is I receive cash, so I put a debit cash, and then credit rent revenue since they are paying. Now I'm going to show you a profit and loss statement that we also had to make for quarter one. So as I said, for each quarter we had to print out, because we're going to be making binders to showcase all of our accounting monopoly transactions that we did. So we had to print out an assortment of different reports for each quarter and for quarters as a whole. So this would be my profit and loss statement for quarter one.
So first semester they play as a sole proprietor, and then they give a presentation as to the class as prospective shareholders, and then next semester they play as a corporation.
So this is my profit and loss report for my quarter one. And now I'm going to show you a balance sheet report for my quarter one as well. There we go, right here. There is an assortment of other reports that we had to make. For example, we had to make the trial balance before we close and then after we close. So there's a lot of different reports that we had to do. This is just a few just to give a small little rundown of what exactly we had to do. And then this is a balance sheet for my first quarter. Shows my assets right here, my liabilities right here, and then the different accounts that I used in the balance sheet. And that is pretty much it for me.
Thank you, Jasmine. And we would just like to say, the third hour accounting class would just like to say thank you for giving us this opportunity to spotlight our class, and hopefully more and more students will enroll in it and more get certified, more get out there in the workforce using it, or maybe starting their own companies and be able to operate. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Before I have Lori come up, I did forget to mention, we are in the works with IVCC for if the student receives the badge and passes the Certiport test, getting dual credit for that course for a small fee. But we are working on that with their division. Next we have Lori Turzin and her culinary arts students. Lori's been great to work with. She's in our division now, CTE. And I know she caters events. She's catered the Hall of Honor. She's catered the car show. We have guest speakers that come in for FBLA, and we just say, Lori, we're gonna have this many students. And she comes over and she caters the events for us in the morning. So we really appreciate having her in our division.
This week we've been working on pastries, so we're honored to let you sample some of our work.
Well, and during Principal Appreciation Week, Mrs. Turzin and her culinary arts program invited the Superintendent's Council. We had our weekly meeting that week, and so we had a wonderful breakfast provided by the culinary arts program as well.
And we have a big spring coming up. We have a school board, Illinois Association of School Board.
Thank you.
The regional meeting we're gonna do the dinner for. So
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much.
That one right there. Thank you.
How are you doing?
Oh.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Sure.
You represented you well. This way. Wow.
Thank you so
My
much.
better age.
Tired and you just reach. Thank you.
Look at more.
Thank you so much.
Last page.
We all like to die.
It's fine.
Yeah, with the kids as well. Mr. Baker,
Now, there may have
let's
been
get a picture as well with Mr. Sarver
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
for our spotlight, with our spotlight folks.
Could you get him with some powdered sugar on his face?
Have a couple of cream puffs in.
There you go.
Wow.
See, that's pretty. Look at how pretty that is, just in and of itself.
Eat healthy tonight.
Okay, I'm wearing powdered sugar. You're gonna wear it. Walk an extra mile tonight or tomorrow. Dwayne, you'll be all right.
All weekend.
Thank you, Sally, for that faith.
Yeah. You worked so hard. I love cream puff. You deserve it.
Oh, sorry, Scott. I didn't get any pastries my first year on the board.
Well, there's fruit in this too.
This is awesome.
This is wonderful.
You're like a little kid.
There's a picture right there.
I'm on camera.
Very good.
This is something I can't do. I can bake, but I can't do pastries.
Yeah. I can't either.
It must be, maybe it's a patience thing. I don't know.
You come to an LP board meeting and we feed you. Where else does this happen in the Illinois Valley?
Lori, you're coming every month. Everything they try. Yeah, I can't do it. I can't do pastries. All right. Sarge is gonna be fancy, and we're just gonna eat. This is awesome.
Mrs. Turzin, December 20th is the next board meeting.
Lori, I'll just stop by your house and pick it up on the way. No big deal.
And are you, are these also being kind of sold to the public as well?
Yes,
You can put orders in for that.
the bakery case we have open now.
Yep, yep.
And then hopefully the cafe will be open soon.
Okay?
You're in good company.
Wrong color.
Oh, everywhere.
All right.
I'm not kidding. I'll go pick them up and house back.
I'm ready for an ant.
You're laughing, I'm serious.
I know.
It's really good.
Yeah, I'm waiting.
Mm-hmm.
You can't vote for your mouth.
That's true, you
I'm
can't.
waiting for these.
Yeah.
You know what you're missing right now, Sarge?
Huh?
Pretty impressive.
Don't worry, it won't go to waste. Like it looks like I missed many meals.
Now, are our ACC Culinary Arts students that are here today, are you, are all LP, or you got a combination of other schools?
All LP students.
All LP students, okay, very good, thank
Do
you.
we have, Mrs. Turzin, do we have their names?
Yes, I have Albert Para, Maya Westoliak, Beatrice Ars, her sister Jasmine, also presented tonight, so, and Evan Hoff.
Great job. Needless to say.
I can get on board with that. Be able to fit out the room.
If you don't mind leaving those, we'll clean them up afterwards.
Very good, thank you.
All the kids and this. I know, that's kind of.
Nope, that's
I guess that'll be tomorrow. Because I'm not writing tomorrow. I'm leaving tomorrow.
I know. Scott's very passionate, does a great job with that.
So I'm saying he doesn't have.
Yeah, right?
Everybody done eating?
Yep.
Well, you can't vote your mouth full.
Go ahead.
I figured before it was time to do the committee reports, better chow down real good, right? Get
I'm
it
going to eat mine during the committee
before you get
reports.
called on, right?
During the committee reports, Rose, I'm going to eat.
So like the message there is take your time.
That's fine. We have nothing but time. There's no public comment this evening. On the finance, I need a motion to approve the bills and payroll for LaSalle-Peru Township High School.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Murba?
Yes.
Mr. Pacetto?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrari?
Yes.
Sorry. Mrs. Taliani?
Yes.
Dr. Lynch?
Yes.
Mrs. Alford?
Yeah, see, I agree with
Sorry.
that.
Yes.
You just said you can't vote with the mouth.
I need a motion to approve the bills and payroll for the LP Area Career Center.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Taliani?
Yes.
Mrs. Alcorn?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrari?
Yes.
Mr. Murba?
Yes.
Dr. Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Pacetto?
Yes.
Mr. Sarver?
Yes. Need a motion to approve the payroll report.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Murba?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrari?
Yes.
Mrs. Taliani?
Yes.
Dr. Lynch?
Yes.
Mrs. Alcorn?
Yes.
Mr. Pacetto?
Yes.
Mr. Sarver?
Yes. I need a motion to approve the financial records as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Taliani?
Yes.
Mr. Murba?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrari?
Yes.
Dr. Lynch?
Yes.
Mrs. Alcorn?
Yes.
Mr. Pacetto?
Yes.
Mr. Sarver?
Yes. Under correspondence, we have a thank you card from Mr. Thomas Kowalski for the board recognition and the gifts from the ACC staff and students. And under TIF reimbursements, we have the Village of North Utica TIF 1 for $30,566.08, and Village of North Utica TIF 2 for $9,058.47, for a total TIF reimbursement of $39,624.55. All right, committee reports. Building and Grounds Committee, Mr. Ferrari.
Building and Grounds Committee met last Monday, November 6th. One of the first matters we discussed was a status report on the LP Sports Complex Phase 2. Everything is moving forward. We were advised that asphalt was going to be laid down this week. The soccer building is almost completed, so everything is moving forward. There are a couple of change orders that are on tonight's agenda as item 10.9, an extension of the netting to protect the stands from the track and field discus competitions, and some light fixtures. And as I said, we'll be discussing those later under new business. There was also discussion of some upcoming projects for next spring and summer. Renovations of the counseling office, the weight room, renovations of the PE office, and turning the old greeter's desk at the clock tower entrance into an art display for the school's art department. We discussed a school maintenance grant that's going to be in items 10.7 and 10.8 on tonight's new business agenda. The board also unanimously recommended the purchase of a new scoreboard for the Select Gym, and that is on tonight's agenda as item 10.5. This would be a large video board. It would also incorporate the shot clock, which is something that's now, I don't know if it's currently in effect or it's coming. So it will be quite an update for the gym. We received an update on the replacement phone system. They're currently getting updates on pricing for that, so that's not an action item for tonight. We received an update on the security cameras for the new sports complex. And read my writing here. We also talked about a replacement door on the building. Apparently during the course of the previous major renovation, there was one door that was somehow overlooked. And so that's a project that's being looked into.
What door would that be?
It's on the inside of the E. It's the door.
It's
that
an
when you-
inside door?
Yeah, no, it's the door. It's the outside door. When you come down from the business departments and outside world languages, it empties into the courtyard.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Emergency entrance.
Yes.
Exits.
Exits. Yeah. Yeah.
And they're also looking at some welding shop equipment replacements. There was an accident at the welding shop. Piece of equipment shorted out, and there's probably going to be an insurance claim involved, but it's going to be very expensive to replace that piece of equipment. But luckily no one was injured, so that's the main thing.
Yes, it is.
And that was about it.
Does anyone have any questions? Thank you, Mr. Ferrari. Finance Committee, Mr. Murwa.
We met on Tuesday, November 7th. At that meeting, we, of course, reviewed the financials and things that were in the packet here. I'll just mention that we're 33.3% through the year, and we received 73.21% of revenues, and our expenses are at 48.34%. You'll notice that's more than the amount of time we're through the year, but that's because of one-time items, construction items, and other one-time items, but that'll level out through the remainder of the year. The other thing that happened before we really got into the meeting was we met with the Hometown National Bank Trust Department Wealth Management Group, Phil Slevin, Tammy Humpage, and Beth Beck, and discussed our investments, what we're currently have our excess cash invested in, the timelines of their maturities and things to utilize our liquidity and whatnot. And I'd say it was a very fruitful meeting. Obviously, rates are a lot higher now than they've been in the past. So we're trying to maximize our short-term yield over the next couple of years through different investment techniques that they've recommended and we talked about. And there's some ongoing discussion with that. We also reviewed the levy recommendation. And I'd just like to mention that our board voted to approve this levy recommendation that you see here in the board packet. And what it amounts to is basically keeping our tax rate level, the same as it has been in previous years. But the EAV has increased pretty significantly over the last year, scratching 10%, right, Steve?
It is.
9.9 something.
Yeah.
So what that equates to is that does equate to a little extra revenue to the school, but almost dollar for dollar, it's pretty close. What it ends up doing is it replaces the lost revenue from the corporate personal property replacement tax that we lost last year. So really, you know, it holds our budget basically sound to what it was last year. So we're not looking for a tax increase, but basically rate increase. But basically, what this does is replaces the revenue, the significant revenue lost from that CPPRT. We also did discuss, and there's nothing here yet at this point, but we did discuss the bus contract renewal. Administration's in the middle of working on that with more information to come later. But it appears somewhat favorable for the increases. It won't be too bad. We also talked about the LP Sports Complex and recommended approval for the change orders as previously discussed. We also talked about the school maintenance grant and the work being done in the counseling office, right? That's what that's for, and recommended approval of that also. And also the Select Gym scoreboard, we also recommended approval of that, as did the Building and Grounds Committee. A couple other things we also talked about was beginning to talk and get costs. There's an update on this, but on the voice over IP systems, the phone system is needed throughout the school district. starting to get some bids on that. The sports complex security camera, just getting bids on that. And the activity bus, I believe we do have a recommendation in the packet here. We didn't have the information at our time, but we knew it was coming. And I think that's what we discussed.
Any questions? Thank you, Mr. Miller. Policy Committee, Mrs. Alcorn.
We met on Wednesday, November 8th. We reviewed the cell phone policy that we have and data that teachers and administration had collected to determine if and when or what a new policy on cell phones and the effect that they have on education would be for LP. It's still a conversation, and they'll be coming back at some time in the future. Then we talked about the press policy. It was pretty much just updates, except one policy, which Dr. Robleski has some concerns about, and they will begin to work on that and have a recommendation next month. And that was our report. Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you, Mrs. Alcorn. Programs Committee, Dr. Lynch.
We met yesterday. We received updates on a number of items, but there's nothing on the agenda for your action tonight. Among the updates, we did hear about a successful mentoring program. Marcus Energy has been sponsoring at Putnam County aimed at underperforming or at-risk students, and they're looking to expand it. And so there will be more to come about possibly this program, probably for the December meeting. Secondly, we got an update on the rugby program at LP, and there will also be more to come about this at a later meeting. Third item, the IHSA is currently considering a number of amendments to their bylaws. We have a copy of these proposals, and one's been provided for you, I think, at each of your stations tonight. And there's 23 proposals, so you need to look at them, and we'll be talking and discussing these things later. And lastly, we heard an update on the CTE program support Mr. Thomas Kowalski has been providing. That generous support has already provided fantastic equipment and supplies for the vocational technical programs and some new band equipment. And now a proposal and plan for an outdoor playground for the early childhood program has been developed. More information will also be coming on this project very soon. And that was it.
Okay, any questions? Thank you, Dr. Lynch. On to administrative reports, superintendent's report, Dr. Robleski.
Thank you, Mr. Sarver. I want to start with some comments, and we have some things to share with the board. This is in celebration of National Board Member Appreciation Month, and of course today is Board Member Appreciation Day. And I want to pull up my computer. I have several people I want to thank here. The first one is going to be Mr. Baker, who put some time and energy into. We thought about what could be one of the ways that we could show our appreciation to the Board of Education that could potentially involve more voices. And so we have a short video of representatives from within the school that were recorded sharing gratitude messages to the board members. And so I'd very much like to share this with the board. Is that better? Good. Okay. All right. So, Mr. Baker, thank you very much for producing this for us.
Really, thanks to all the people who are willing to go on camera and
Yeah.
not afraid to put their face on.
on behalf of the LP faculty, staff, and student body, it is my absolute pleasure to officially kick off Board Member Appreciation Week. As superintendent of the district, I think I probably have more insight to the time and the commitment that it takes to be a great board member. And we are incredibly blessed to have 7 amazing individuals that serve the district with selflessness and a complete devotion to doing what's best for our kids. So I want to say thank you to all 7 of our board members, and I appreciate being able to work with you day in and day out.
I would like to say thank you to the LP High School board members for their leadership and commitment to make LP High School great.
Thank you for supporting our district and spending countless hours in board meetings and other meetings taking care of all of us. We appreciate all that you do in creating shared visions and goals for us and then providing the resources for them. We are so happy to be part of the LP district and all of your positive and supportive leadership. Thank you, board members.
Thank you on behalf of Local 138.
Thank you, board members, for all you do for the students at LP.
Thank you to the LP school board members. We learn together, we lead together, and together we're making a difference for every student in this district.
Happy School Board Appreciation Day to the members of the LP Township District 120 members of the Board of Education. We are so grateful for the sacrifices that you make each and every day, the time and effort that you put into the governance of our school district. Your commitment and dedication to serving the students, staff, and communities of our district is a testament to your character and unwavering support of public education. Your servant leadership truly embodies the vision of our school. Learn, grow, lead. Excellence is our standard. You are making a difference in the lives of the people whom you serve. Thank you for all you have done and for all that you continue to do.
Our community takes great pride in LaSalle-Peru Township High School District 120, and I want to take the opportunity today on Board Members Day to thank our board members for their commitment and leadership to creating a great school for our kids.
Thank you to the school board for all that you do. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much for everything you do. Obviously, as a school counselor here and as the daughter of the Board of Education attorney for the last almost 30 years, I can honestly say with so much gratitude how much we appreciate you and all that you do. I know it's a very thankless job at times, but the ways that you guys impact the school, the community, the students, the faculty and staff, and all the positive ways that you make an impact in our lives, we cannot thank you enough. Endless thanks and have a wonderful week.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome on that. You know, it's it really is a joy to serve this Board of Education. There is you know, a lot of people, we talked about the time that goes into it, and you know, it's one of those things that if you're on the outside looking in, you really don't have a real sense very often of what all goes into being able to be informed to the point where you are comfortable enough to be able to either say yes or no to things that we are recommending. So I appreciate all the conversations that we have. I appreciate very much our regular breakfast meetings that we have as we prepare for the each upcoming board meeting, as well as all the various events that everyone contributes to, whether it's the homecoming parade, it's coming to the athletic or fine art events, or the various celebrations and ceremonies that we have as well. I know our staff members very much appreciate when they see our board members. And as well as seeing the outcomes of the decisions that you make every month. So it is very, very much appreciated. So what Jen and I would like to do is to present to each of our board members. We have a certificate of appreciation for you. And we have a gift for you as well, and that each board member is going to receive a very nice portfolio, notepad, whoops, that has the LP logo on it. It says the LaSalle-Peru Township High School Board of Education, and it has an LP pen in there as well. I think that this would be very, very appropriate at any future leadership team meetings at Iowa Township High School. A very, very appropriate place to put this on display. So, with that, before I pass these out, if we could give a round of applause to all of our board members. Thank you. All right. Sorry, the ribbon came off, Mr. Sharman.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Taliani.
Thank you. Red ribbon.
Absolutely. We coordinate these
Put it on
things.
Mike's desk.
I have a green one here if you need it.
Thank you very much. And this will be very helpful too, that you'll be able to take a lot of good notes in all of our sessions that we'll be attending at the upcoming conference. Perfect.
I might need a bigger purse to put this in.
All your notes, Sally.
A new suitcase?
I know.
Oh, man.
Dr. Lynch.
My eyes are watering.
I haven't figured my purse out yet.
Thank you, Rose.
You figured your pants.
This is
You figured
Al
your
Ford.
pants up, but not your purse.
My outfits are figured out, yes.
Okay, I'm just saying. I mean,
And Mr. Passat.
This is very important.
It's not that
When you dress up every day, it's really not hard. Yeah, I got you.
And the board attorney.
You know, I can put all my stuff in here.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Okay. So the next thing that we want to transition to is this is the time of the year that we want to give the board an update on kind of the state of the district. You know, as we discussed at our recent retreat, administratively we are kind of reorganizing and restructuring the way that we do this. So that way we're able to, instead of providing maybe one longer presentation that encompasses a lot of different information, we're going to begin not only chunking the reports, but we're also looking at it from the standpoint of information that is kind of just in time or timely. So tonight's focus is going to be a focus strictly on kind of school report card academic progress. Upcoming meetings, we're going to begin looking at athletic activity, participation, success. So you can probably expect to have that 3 times a year to kind of match up with each of the seasons. And we're also then working out the final details for the scheduling of providing attendance, discipline, student behavior data, as well as other areas from our counseling department, other areas of SEL, and we're still working on other areas that we feel would be appropriate and timely for you. So tonight, Mrs. Cushing and I are going to have the honor of doing the first of our new series of presentations at your workstation. But actually, why don't we stand over here? That way we'll be a little closer to the computer. The PDF doesn't advance as slickly with the clicker as I would like it to do. So there's 2 components that Mrs. Cushing and I are going to be talking to you tonight. The first part is going to be an overview and an update on what kind of gains or narrowing the gap gains are we seeing based on some benchmarking data that we utilize through a software program called Star 360, which we've been using now for several years. So Mrs. Cushing, she's really the overseer behind the Star 360. So I know she's looking forward to being able to give you an update of the data that you see on your first inside page. Then the second part of it will be my part of the presentation. And we have a new format for how we are able to talk about the school report card, but to actually, I believe, I know in our leadership team when we review this, feels very strongly that this provides better context for you to understand how well is LP High School doing in relation to the rest of the state. Our goal in all these presentations is that whether you're out grocery shopping or you're walking the dog or wherever you are in the community, if people are going to talk to you as your board member, we want you to be as knowledgeable and as equipped to be able to answer any questions that may come up to you. So, Mrs. Cushing.
So, as was shared, the STAR 360 is a benchmarking test that we give 3 times a year to all of our students in grades 9 through 11. It is fall is our first one that we give. It's given this year was given at the end of August. It's a computer adaptive test, so as students are taking the test, it will adjust to their levels so that we can better gauge where their assessment falls. It's given in math and reading. These tests are great because they're aligned to the standards for our state, and we can really pinpoint where they fall on those standards, what skills they need more help with, or that they're really excelling at. So it gives us really good information on each and every student. It's very individualized. The other great thing about these tests are that they are much shorter than our SAT tests and some of those other tests that we administer throughout the year. And when I say shorter, we're able to administer them in the classrooms. Reading test is less than 30 minutes to take. And then the math test takes typically less than 20 minutes. So it's not even an entire class period of time that we need to use. It does not disrupt our schedules or anything along those lines. The other benefit is that teachers can use this data as soon as they are finished taking the test. So the results are immediate for teachers. The first part on the top half there, if you focus on the 23 results there at the end of each of those columns, you can see those were the results for this year. The 2 shades of green are where we want our kids to be, meets or exceeds. I'm sure you could figure that out. But those are the areas that we're looking at. I gave you kind of this graph so that you can do a look back and just kind of see overall. Now obviously that data doesn't compare students really, other than just to say this is typically what a 9th grader looks like when they're entering our building. For us, remember, that's pretty important because we have 11 different sender schools coming to us, so we kind of like to gauge that information. It also can tell us some information about how students are performing once they enter our building and things of that nature. It gives us that information to know how are they doing at this moment in time. The really important data, though, to us that I think we look at as a whole here, though, is that cohort data. That is on the bottom half of the page there. This particular information allows us to compare the same students in their cohorts, and you can see there that we are seeing some growth with our students. So if you look at the class of 26, for example, in the reading there, the top graph, they've grown some from their freshman to their sophomore year. And then the class of 25, they had some growth from their freshman to sophomore year, and then a little bit of a decline. Because we've been doing this enough years, we've started to notice that for some reason, when they come into their junior year, they start to have a little bit of a decline. I'm beginning to think that has a little bit less to do with maybe academics per se, but more motivations and some attitudes, maybe more so than actual academics. But we are certainly noticing across years, as I've looked at this, that we are seeing growth between 9th and 10th grade consistently, both in reading and math. So I think that's very promising. Also, one of the things that I look at certainly is that approaching area. They're really close to meeting the benchmark, and we really can focus in on those kids and hopefully throughout the year move more kids, obviously in all those categories, but certainly getting those kids across that line into that green zone. Lots of information overall in that program, but those are the highlights in that high level area. Any questions?
Does this, does this give you the time the student took the test? How much time it took them to take the test? I believe it does. Renaissance Stars 360, I believe it does. I would be intrigued to see the time spent between partially and did not yet meet with exceeds and meets. I'd be willing to bet we got some clickers on the partially met, did not yet meet, because they just want to get through it.
And maybe
We
the-
do similar testing, and we got
Right.
some clickers.
Maybe the same way from sophomore to junior year.
Yeah,
That could be the
could
same
very
time.
well be it. I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And click through it, because when you spend a little more time, you're going to do a little better on it.
And that's one of my thoughts on the motivation piece.
Interesting.
Can happen sometimes.
We're on the same page, Mrs. Cushing.
Well,
Yeah.
Having a driver's license and more mobility has as well.
Oh, yeah.
Any other questions? Okay. So then what we want to transition to, and we intentionally pair these together because they really do talk well to one another in terms of as we look at some of our trend data, but then as we begin looking at our standardized test score data. But what's great about the school report card report is we're going to be focusing on the ELA, the language arts, and the mathematics. But we're also going to then do a little deeper dive into graduation rates. We're going to be looking at attendance, and particularly chronic absenteeism. Because as you know, on the board agenda, we have 2 board goals, district goals, that we are recommending that the board give us authority to formally adopt. That will then really begin to help us hook our wagons up, in terms of even to do a better job prioritizing the efforts that the team makes to be able to help kids and staff continue to lower our chronic absenteeism rate and raise our graduation rate. So this report that you're looking at, well, first of all, before I get into that, I want to share with you, you have 2 pages that I actually included from the State Board of Education that were not part of this initial report, school report card report. We wanted you to be aware of how the summative designation is established. So there are now 5 different designation levels. LP High School is at the second highest. We are commendable. And we have been commendable each time that rating has been utilized. And so that certainly is a point of pride. But this chart then, or the house, kind of shows you how the state calculates the various measures from language arts, math, growth. You're looking at chronic absenteeism. There's a climate survey component, the 5 essentials assessment that or climate survey that we administer to all of our students, our staff, and our parents. And then the state has a calculation. Now, to be in the exemplary, the school needs to be in one of the top 10% performing districts, schools across the state. To be in the commendable, you have to be, you're not in the top 10%, but all of your kind of your subgroup scores are all higher than the lowest performing 5% schools in the district or in the state. As you can imagine, most schools are going to be sort of in that commendable targeted support area because that's where the majority of our schools are going to be. And I know we have a couple of our area elementary schools that received exemplary status. I think I always confuse the LaSalle-Peru and the Peru. Northview, which is Peru. Northview's Peru. They just attained exemplary status. And then you have an explanation of each of those various categories.
Steve, I don't mean to stop you or interrupt you, but I really like that bell curve, the way that explains where the school sits in relation to, that puts it into a great perspective.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. And I think this report we're going to go over is going to make it even more relevant in terms of putting things into context.
I really like that that's bigger than this, because those are
So this report that we're looking at, this is we acquired this report from a group called ECRA. Those of you maybe in the school world, ECRA is it's a private company that does a lot of consulting. We're focusing on education. And the ISA Board of Directors, we do a lot of work with ECRA and are currently working with them on updating the new strategic plan for the state. But what's really slick about this report is it takes all of the reported information on the school report card, but then what it does is it creates a percentile. So it tells us what percentile is LP High School at in comparison to the rest of the state. And I think that's a really important measure because one, it gives us better growth targets for where we want to see growth at. And it tells a different story as well in terms of the kinds of growth that we were seeing. And it also helps contextualize too, because when you look at the percentage of kids that are meeting, they're low when you look across the state, quite frankly. So let's start first with the ELA. So as you're looking at this page, I want to focus on these columns right here. The state value, the 2023. We have the state value, which is the average, our district value, where our performance is at, our kids' performance, and then you have the percentile. So for example, our ELA, we are just a smidge below the state average at 32.8%. But that means, though, is that we're in the 47th percentile. So we're near halfway points in terms of that there are basically, we're 47% better than we're better than 47% of all the other districts in the state of Illinois in terms of our kids' performance.
That's English.
And I think that's an important thing to be thinking about. Because, I mean, if we just look at this number here, 32.8%, I mean, that's hard. You can look at that and say, oh my gosh, that's low. We want that to get higher. But keep in mind, the state average is 33.8. And of course, we want to continue to exceed that. But you compare that to our 2022, from a percentage standpoint, we went from 26.9% of our kids meeting to 32.8%. We saw a 5.9% growth of our kids' progress. That's the direction we want to be going. Now I want to go to math next. So in math, we went from a 15.4%, we grew to 19%. We had a 3.6% growth. Now this is the cool thing with the percentiles. Our growth is smaller in looking at our kids, but you compare that to the percentile. Across the state, we had larger growth in our math. 9 percentile points that we increased in mathematics compared to 2 percentile points in ELA. Even though we had a larger percent in our district, that also tells you that other schools are having larger percent increases as well. But this is a really great measure. Now here's a really great success story for this year is our science proficiency. In 2022, we were at 45.2%. That increased 14.1% to almost 60% of our kids meeting proficiency in science to 59.3%. And that puts us at the 50th percentile, and we're well above the state average, as well. And that's a 30 percentile growth in comparison to other districts across the state from year over year. So there's some real success stories in here, but it also helps us be able to have some more targeting as well as we look at Mrs. Cushing's work with our Star 360, and that kind of helps. I mean, that's the more critical data because we can go kid by kid on that one there. But this also looks at from the composite in terms of what impact is this having on us and how does it compare to the rest of the state. So we saw growth in ELA, math, and our science. Now we did see a decrease. Forgive me. We saw it was a district change. We went from 81.1% of our ninth graders on track. We had a slight increase to 82.4%. However, our percentile dropped. So that means we didn't grow as much as the state did, right? So that's that's an interesting thing for us to be mindful of too, and to be asking different kinds of questions as to why. Why is that happening? Our 4-year graduation rate. We went from 80.7 to 82.6, almost a 2% growth. And then we saw a change in 4 percentile points across the state, which is the direction we want to be going. Now, the one area that we have been talking about putting a kind of a real laser beam on here in terms of understanding why. Some of these numbers you want them to be smaller than going larger. Our community college remediation. In 2022, we had we were at 18.7% of our kids had to take a remediation class or a non-credit bearing class in community college. But we saw a big increase in 2023. That went up to 39.2%. So that, as you see, we were in the 49th percentile, and then we jumped to the 87th percentile. So that's some area we've got to put some work on, and try to understand what's happening with those students and not getting into credit-bearing classes. And then you can kind of see, obviously, where how that impacts our percentile across the state. I'll stop there. Do you have any questions on this? Okay. I'm not going to go over all of these pages because some of these also include financial data, which we'll come back to at a later time. Although the one bit of financial data I do want to point out, though, this is kind of interesting. This looks at average teacher salary and average administrator salary. And what you can see is on our teacher salary that we rank in comparison to the rest of the state, we're in the 69th percentile in terms of where our average teacher salary is. The state value is $58,551. Our average is $65,431. And then our average administrator salary, we're in the 56th percentile, where you can see the state value there is the state average is about $107,000, and then our district average is a little over $110,000. So this is also good metrics too, to be able to kind of gauge kind of how are we financially in terms of salary and EAV and property tax. This is just demographic information. I'm going to skip over this, and this is where I want to spend our last amount of time together. This is on page 6 of 7. I want to start first with chronic absenteeism. As you can see, in 2022, we had a 31.2% percent of our kids were defined as chronic absenteeism, chronically absent, and that put us in the 76th percentile. So I mean, we want that number to go down, right? So we're high in comparison to the rest of the state. Now, thankfully, we saw a 2.8% decline in our chronic absenteeism from the year before, which is the direction that we want to be going. And then you can kind of see how that compares on the percentile. It was we dropped 1 percentile points in comparison to the rest of the state. So the direction is going in the right way, but we know that we need to work on accelerating that and looking at what can we do differently to be able to, one, I think, catch kids earlier. We had a lot of conversations of late about that. And then looking at, we've been having some really great conversations about, we have to stop thinking about fitting every kid into the schedule that we have. We have a 7-period day. It's 50 minutes long. This is what Mrs. Cushion and I went through. This is what all of you went through, and look at what we were successful. But the reality is, that's not the case anymore. That schedule does not work for every single kid. And I think what we're doing a disservice by saying that, well, if you can't fit into this, then you're going to have to figure it out. And so we don't want to, that doesn't mean, we're going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but we need to start looking at alternative options. Now we have our AAP program, which is a half-day alternative program. That's not catching everybody, and that's kind of sort of targeted to a certain group because it's grant funded. We have to start looking at other kinds of schedules and other types of opportunities that maybe doesn't mean every kid shows up here at 7:40 or 7:30 every day. Maybe we have a different schedule, that they still meet the state requirements, but it's going to be kind of meet them where they're at, but also kind of matching up with what are your interests and what can we do to marry those to where we're meeting our board approved and state graduation requirements, but also giving those kids a better high school experience in terms of their connectivity. And so, because we certainly want to see these numbers begin to drop. But the other thing you overlay that with too is one of our other unique challenges is our mobility. Now, thankfully, our student body in 2023 was less mobile. But if you look at that in 2022, we had a mobility rate of 14.3%. That put us in the 90th percentile. Think about that in the state. Incredibly high mobility rate. A lot of kids coming in, coming out. Now we saw that drop by 9 points to 81% in the percentile, but it's still really, really high. And those are some things that, sometimes we don't have a whole lot of control, over that. So that's part of what we have to be able to figure out is how do we create experiences that are going to be able to catch those kids and ensure that they're able to meet the requirements that they need to be able to meet in order to graduate. And that's why absenteeism and the graduation rate are our two primary goals that we're setting. Mrs. Cushing, if you want to just talk a little bit more in terms of what our growth measures are and kind of how we arrived at those.
So we're going to propose that we would set a goal for chronic absenteeism to reduce by 2%. We think that that is a smart goal that's attainable. We met with the administration and the division chairs as our leadership team to come up with those goals. I should have led with that, I guess. Then we also looked at graduation rate, and after much discussion, we really ended up with saying we think that's probably attainable, but the other direction, obviously, to raise that by 2% as well. And so we've been talking a lot about that with the staff. We've already been doing some work in hopes that you'll be agreeable to that. And if not, we'll adjust, obviously, per your request. But we've been doing some work on that already and trying to think of some action plans that we can take at all the different levels, whether it's administration, what can we do as sort of the building and district level, some action plans, as well as what can they do in the classrooms. And so we've been having all of our different PLC groups and division groups start thinking of some action plans for that as well. Yep. So already trying to make some forward progress on that.
As we all know, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. You know, and so that's where we felt that if we hit 2%, it's attainable, as Mrs. Cushing indicated. But if we look at 2% every year, right? 5 years, 10%, 10% growth, or 10% decline in our absenteeism rate. You know, and I think the value to that is as we hit those, well, now we can have successes. We can have celebrations and feel like, okay, we're making progress, as opposed to say we're going to see that graduation rate increase by 6% 1 year. You know, I don't know if that's attainable. You know, and without having to strip your standards, you know, to make that happen. So that's kind of what we're excited about, and having these kind of data sources, I think, are going to help us guide us and help keep you informed and apprised, hopefully in a better way, in a more informed way, in terms of the growth that we're making, but also as we move forward to be able to like link. Okay, well, these are the things we're doing differently, and why we think this is making a difference. Any questions? Okay. Thank you. And I have nothing else to add. That's beyond my report.
Okay. Principal's report. Mrs. Cushing.
In my report, I gave some data on the, well, I think you're dated out probably, right? But I did give some data on our parent-teacher conferences. They went really well. We had a great turnout. And so I also did a survey this year because certainly in my tenure here, we really have not asked them, like, hey, how are the parent-teacher conferences going? Feedback was overwhelmingly that they're going great. We really like them as they are, so we're going to continue them as they are. We also have been conducting a lot of different testing there. You can read about that. We've conducted junior testing and incoming freshman testing, and had pretty good turnout for all of those, even though some of the testing formats have changed a little bit. And the other thing that I would highlight very quickly for you is that we had our Veterans Day program on Friday, and when I had turned in my report, we had 30-some veterans signed up. We ended up with about 50 veterans that were in attendance. So it was a great program, very enjoyable. I know a lot of our, obviously the veterans enjoy it, but The students and staff are always amazed and moved by what a patriotic day that is. So I'm always happy to celebrate that day. And if any of you are ever available, you're always welcome to attend that annual program that we have. Any questions for me?
Thank you. Athletic Director's report, Mr. Hanson.
Since we last met, we put the lid on the fall season. So last Friday night was our last fall event. Dr. Robleski and I attended the state swim meet. So that was my first time at swim meet. Very impressive. What a facility. But our freshman from Henry, that's a participant in our co-ops, Sam Nauman, she won her heat, but not quite there with some of the elite swimmers in the state, which we were lucky enough to see. Also, we did send one cross-country runner to the state meet. That was Ashley Lord the week before. So that's a lid on the fall season. This week we opened the door to the winter season. Our girls basketball team playing their third game tonight in 3 nights. Boys start next week at Ottawa. Wrestling starts next Wednesday. And then girls bowling and swimming will start right after Thanksgiving. So looking forward to a good winter season here. On the activities front, just a quick update. Mr. Miller did a great job with, on October 25th, he had Damon West out here for a great assembly, delivered a great message to our students. It was very powerful, and I think the feedback that I received, it was just great. And lastly, for me, I had my first Hall of Honor committee meeting. We had some great discussion. I learned a lot about a lot of the past here at LaSalle-Peru was very powerful, and I think that we were presenting you with an outstanding class. So looking forward to the rest of that process. That's it.
Thank you.
Good job. See you Monday.
Tuesday.
All right. See you Tuesday.
Director of your Career Center, Mr. Macon.
Good evening, everyone. Just wanted to start off with our Students of the Month. We honored this morning LP student Mackenzie Hamilton, who you saw spotlighted in my last month's newsletter. Just an outstanding kid in the community, in the school, and everywhere, just phenomenal. But we do have a second one we'll be honoring tomorrow from Henry Snatchwin. Again, another Mackenzie Hartwig, who's in our CNA program. Again, a phenomenal kid that we're blessed to have as part of that program going forward too. And the community will have as she becomes a CNA and hopefully going further in the healthcare occupations. A couple of other programs are doing some astounding things. Even though we had the little setback in welding, Mr. Villarreal and his crew are working with LKCS. They're in the process of mass producing about 50 mail carts for them. It's a partnership we've had in the past with LKCS. It's a great opportunity for our kids, and I think the main thing, the spotlight that goes on with that is not just their welding skill, but they have to go through quality control to make sure those things are exacting to the specifications that they need and can be useful. And to see the kids taking that much pride in their work is another outstanding bit of the things that come out of those programs, that the finished product means something to them because they know it means something to the customer as it goes out there too. Also, in my world, a little extra joy because the little kids are now starting to come up for the early childhood program. Mrs. Johnson is at capacity in both of her sessions for the second year in a row. Just phenomenal things she's done. Word has got out in the community, and people are clamoring to get in. There's literally a waiting list now for that. So another great bit of news from there. And as the other things, as we get ready to go into, actually, it's hard to believe, but course selection time with kids. I'm in the process of, I already had a great crew from Ottawa come over to take a look at the ACC and the course offerings. I've got Princeton tomorrow, Mendota scheduled, Henry scheduled, as well as Depew. So it's that time of year, and some good things are happening with the kids seeing the programs over here. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Director of Communications, Mr. Baker.
All right, good evening, everyone. So some of the things we've been working on is supporting, actually some of the things you've already heard about, things like the Veterans Day program. As Mr. Cushing said, you're always welcome to come, but if you don't make it, we do always live stream it. So it's a nice little community piece that gets that out to both people obviously in town and far away. Also, we have our ongoing Veterans Day slideshow that we put out, taking submissions of local veterans from our students and really anybody in the community that wants to submit those. We just had kind of an ever-growing presentation that runs all day in the Commons here, but then we also put out online for community members to see those with photos and information. Lots of LP alumni who've gone on to serve, that sort of thing. Other stuff, also making some materials for our special Reese Carney book launch, which really Mrs. Riva and Dr. Vleski need most of the credit for, but I got to help them out with some projects there. We also recorded all of that and put that out online too for community to catch up on the next day. Aside from that, since we last spoke, the LP Foundation did bring the Harlem Wizards to town. We had a great night with a very close to full Select gymnasium. It's always amazing to see how many little kids you can squeeze into that space. It was really a great day, really from the start of that day. Dr. Vleski, me, a number of other kind of foundation volunteers took members of the Wizards out to just about all of our sender schools, giving presentations to the kids. It's amazing. I've been telling people this, like, you get a guy in a basketball uniform and hand him a microphone, and a third grader will think he is Michael Jordan. Like, no matter who it is. They get so excited to see him shoot some hoops and talk about, they do some presentations on issues like bullying and respect and teamwork and all those sorts of things. And then it definitely helps draw those kids in to the event that night. So foundation meets tomorrow, so we'll probably get our report on just how well it went then. But based on kind of initial reports, it sounds like it was a very good fundraiser for the foundation. Not only helping our foundation, but also we do partner with all of our sender schools. So for any students from those districts who come in, when they buy their tickets online, they mark what schools they're from, and then they all get a percentage of that revenue as well. So really, it's aside from a great fundraising and for us and others, it's also just a great community event. I think anybody with young children know how few and far between events like that are in the community. Things, I know we're planning on Disney and Ice and Quad Cities in a few weeks. It's nice not having to drive and pay quite so much to make memories like that happen. So I think we're doing some great things with that. That's all, unless you have any questions.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Under new business, I need a motion for approval to place a tentative 2023 tax levy for school year 2024-2025 on public display in preparation for truth and taxation hearing on December 20th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Murbuck?
Yes.
Mrs. Alcorn?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrari?
Yes.
Mrs. Taliani?
Yes.
Dr. Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Pacetto?
Yes.
Mr. Sarver?
Yes. I need a motion for approval to adopt the following district goals. A, by the end of the 2023-2024 school year, the chronic absenteeism rate will be reduced by 2%. And B, by the end of the 2023-2024 school year, the four-year graduation rate will be increased by 2%.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Taliani?
Yes.
Dr. Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrari?
Yes.
Mr. Murbuck?
Yes.
Mrs. Alcorn?
Yes.
Mr. Pacetto?
Yes.
Mr. Sarver?
Yes. For 10-3, at your stations, you have a copy of the LP Hall of Honor class of 2023. Are there any questions? Okay.
Congratulations.
Were you going to read the names?
Okay. I need a motion for approval
So moved.
to induct
Sorry.
to induct the class of 2023 LP Hall of Fame inductees as presented. 2011 varsity softball team that was runner-up. The 1975 varsity football team, which is a 4A quarterfinalist and also shut out the entire conference.
And also you were on that team?
I carried the balls. Chips Giovanni, teacher and coach. George Herbolsheimer Sr., class of 1929, and Henrietta Herbolsheimer, class of 1931. Rayanne Hune, class of 1978. Joe Marini, alumnus, class of 1955. Coach and teacher. Joe Rutkins, alumnus, class of 1957. Ron Sharp, alumnus, class of 1983. John Skabinski, alumnus, class of 1973. And Joe Skabinski, teacher and coach. I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Taliani?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrari?
Yes.
Mr. Murbaugh?
Yes.
Dr. Lynch?
Yes.
Mrs. Alcorn?
Yes.
Mr. Pacetto?
Yes.
Mr. Sarver?
Yes. And thank you.
You're welcome.
I need a motion for approval to reaffirm the Board of Education agreements reviewed on October 28th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Pacetto?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrari?
Yes.
Mrs. Taliani?
Yes.
Mr. Murbaugh?
Yes.
Dr. Lynch?
Yes.
Mrs. Alcorn?
Yes.
Mr. Sarver?
Yes. I need a motion for approval to purchase Tektronix basketball scoreboard, shot clocks, LED light strips, and video display from Sievert Electric via the Sourcewell Purchasing Cooperative for $187,890.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Ferrari?
Yes.
Mr. Murbaugh?
Yes.
Mrs. Taliani?
Yes.
Dr. Lynch?
Yes.
Mrs. Alcorn?
Yes.
Mr. Pacetto?
Yes.
Mr. Sarver?
Yes. I need a motion for approval to award the bid to purchase a new activity bus to Midwest Transit of Kankakee, Illinois for $107,171.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Taliani?
Yes.
Mrs. Alcorn?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrari?
Yes.
Mr. Murbaugh?
Yes.
Dr. Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Pacetto?
Yes.
Mr. Sarver?
Yes. I need a motion for approval to submit Health Life Safety Amendment number 85, which is for the main academic building for counseling office repairs, weight room renovation, and PA renovation.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Pacetto?
Yes.
Dr. Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrari?
Yes.
Mrs. Taliani?
Yes.
Mr. Murbaugh?
Yes.
Mrs. Alcorn?
Yes.
Mr. Sarver?
Yes. Need a motion for approval to submit fiscal year 2024, round one, school maintenance project grant application in support of Health Life Safety number 85, which is for the main academic building, counseling office repairs.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Murbaugh?
Yes.
Mrs. Taliani?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrari?
Yes.
Dr. Lynch?
Yes.
Mrs. Alcorn?
Yes.
Mr. Pacetto?
Yes.
Mr. Sarver?
Yes. A motion for approval of the following LP Sports Complex Phase 2 change orders. A, Vernon Jones Discus Safety Netting Extension, $21,837. And B, Visiting Construction, concession, press box, building light fixtures, $4,659.06.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Alcorn?
Yes.
Mrs. Taliani?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrari?
Yes.
Mr. Murbaugh?
Yes.
Dr. Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Pacetto?
Yes.
Mr. Sarver?
Yes. Need a motion for approval of the 2023 school report card.
So moved. Second.
Mrs. Taliani?
Yes.
Dr. Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrari?
Yes.
Mr. Murbaugh?
Yes.
Mrs. Alcorn?
Yes.
Mr. Pacetto?
Yes.
Mr. Sarver?
Yes. 1011 is not an action item. It's a press policy issue 113. The first reading was October 2023, which we voted on next month. I need a motion for approval of the following resignations as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Ferrari?
Yes.
Mrs. Taliani?
Yes.
Mr. Murbaugh?
Yes.
Dr. Lynch?
Yes.
Mrs. Alcorn?
Yes.
Mr. Pacetto?
Yes.
Mr. Sarver?
Yes. Need a motion for approval of the following appointments as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Murbaugh?
Yes.
Dr. Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrari?
Yes.
Mrs. Taliani?
Yes.
Mrs. Alcorn?
Yes.
Mr. Pacetto?
Yes.
Mr. Sarver?
Yes. I need a motion to adjourn to executive closed session for A, discussion of the minutes of the meetings lawfully closed under the Opens Meeting Act, whether for the purpose of approval by the body of the minutes or the semi-annual review of the minutes. B, appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or discipline of a specific employee. C, collective negotiation matters between the public body, its employees, or the representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees. D, purchase or lease of real property for the use of the public body, including meetings held for the purpose of discussing whether a particular parcel should be required. And E, imminent pending litigation with open session, possible action items follow.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Pacetto?
Yes.
Mr. Murbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrari?
Yes.
Mrs. Taliani?
Yes.
Dr. Lynch?
Yes.
Mrs. Alcorn?
Yes.
Mr. Sarver?
Yes.
Fight.